Today we're going to go over slope from a graph and then graphing non-proportional lines. We're going to look at linear relationships. So remember, linear means line. So proportional relationships are written as y equals kx. Okay, remember that we went over that before, and k, to figure out what k it is y over x value. So an important part to remember that a proportional relationship will always cross the y-axis at the origin. So if I am graphing a proportional relationship, okay, the line is always going to go through the origin, okay, origin. And the coordinates for the origin are 0, 0. So when x is 0, y is going to be 0 on a proportional relationship. Non-proportional relationships now are written as y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. So where it was k in a proportional relationship right here, we're just going to call that m in a non-proportional relationship. So that still means the same thing. That is the rate of change. However, b, so plus b, where b is, that is the y-intercept. So that is where it crosses the y-axis. So on a non-proportional relationship, if here is my graph and the line crosses up here at this point, that point, let's say that is up 1, okay, and then we go another 1, 2. So if it crosses right here at 1, then b would be 1 on this example. So m over here is the slope, and that is going to be the change in y over the change in x. And b is the y-intercept. So just as k is used to represent the rate of change in proportional relations, m is used in non-proportional relations to represent the rate of change. So k and m are meaning the same thing, except k is used in proportional and m is used in non-proportional. Okay, so up top, I just gave you a bunch of different ways you might see for meaning the slope. Okay, so slope in proportional, we call that k. In non-proportional, we call it m. Either way, it is the ratio of the change. So this little triangle here means change of y over the change of x. Okay, so from here to here to here to here. I'll explain that more in a minute. Rise over run. So if I'm counting points, how far do I go up to how far do I go over? So up 1 over 1, right? Rise over run. The change in y over the change in x, just wrote it out. Rate of change, if it's proportional, you'll see constant of proportionality. So those are all different words you are going to see in different ways. You're going to see it. That basically means, what is the slope of a line? That's it. All these different things say, what is the slope? Every time I go over on one x value, what is the change in my y value? So that's what it's asking. So if I go over 1x, what happens to my y value? So let's look at the table we have here, okay? So when x is 0, y is 2. So if x is 0, I would be here in the origin. Y is going to be 2. So 1, 2, I'm up 2. So my y-intercept is always going to be a number when x is 0. So my y-intercept is 2. That one was easy enough. So now to figure out slope. Okay, so slope from here to here, I have a change of 1. From here to here, I have a change of 1. Okay, from here to here, 1. From here to here, 1. So slope is the change in y. So the change in y over the change in x. So change in y from 1 to the x was plus 1 over plus 1. So 1 over 1 simplifies to just 1. So my slope is 1. Box that so we can see it. And I'll box that answer too. Now let's look at the graph to see if we can prove that. So I say it crosses here and it crosses here. Right? Those are two spots where the line crosses the grid. So up 1 over 1. So it could also be the rise, how far vertical or change did I have over the horizontal change. So over here, I still get slope is 1 over 1, which equals 1. Now looking at this graph, the last part I need to figure out, what is it proportional or non-proportional? Well, I know if it's going to be proportional, when it crosses the y-axis, so here's the y-axis right here. Remember, y is up and down. So let me label those for you. So y-axis, x-axis. So where it crosses the y-axis, is it proportional? Does it cross at the origin? So here's my origin, or here I circled it. The line does not pass through the origin, so the line is non-proportional. Okay, let's look at this representation. So I need to figure out an equation that matches the table and then graph the line. So I know the equation that I want to get is y equals mx plus b. I also know that m is slope and the b is going to be y-intercept, where it crosses the y line. So looking at the table, my y-intercept is going to be when x is 0. So x is 0 and y is 9. So I know right offhand that b is going to be 9. So now I need to figure out what m is. What is my slope? Well, it is the change in y over the change in x. Okay, let's figure that out. From 9 to 17, I go up 8. From 0 to 2, I go up 2. So the ratio of 8 over 2 simplifies to 4 over 1, right? Because I can divide them both by 4. 4 over 1 simplifies to just 4. So m is 4 and b is 9. Now let's rewrite the equation. So I have the equation y equals mx plus b with the appropriate numbers in replacing the letters. Y equals 4x plus 9. Which equation, option, matches this? So we know that is B. Now we can graph that. So simply by reading the table over here, I can plot my points. So 0, I'm going to go up to 9. That is where my line goes. If I go over to 2, my line would be all the way up to 17. I don't go up to 17, but I can work backwards. So I do know it is 4, so I can count 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. I would have a dot here. Because I have a positive slope, my line is going to go like this. So I can work backwards. Count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 would be here. 1, 2, 3, 4 down, be here. 2, 3, 4 would be here. 1, 2, 3, 4 would be here. So even though I don't have negative x's on my table, by working backwards, I can understand which way my line is going to go. And then I would take a ruler and not just freehand it, but that is graphing of that line. Okay, now looking at this example. So remember, we are looking for M is our slope and B is our y-intercept. B is when x equals 0. Well, this graph already gives that to me right here. So when x is 0, y is 10. So my slope, or sorry, my y-intercept is 10. So now change in y over change in x. So I have 4, and then from 10 to 12, I only go up by 2. That would be positive. So the slope is 2 over 4. 2 over 4 simplifies to 1/2. So I rewrite the equation, y equals mx plus b. b I know is going to be 10 plus x. M I said was 1/2. Y equals 1/2 x plus 10. Well, what equation says that over here? My equation's on the table. C. C has it as a decimal, but I know 0.5 is the same as 1/2. Now looking over at the graph, at 10 is where it's going to cross the y-intercept. It is going to be a positive slope because it goes up from left to right. And then I'm going down by 1/2. So I would go down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2, because rise over run, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. And then graph that line. Okay, so let's look at this last example. I'm looking for slope, the y-intercept. Now, I cannot tell where the y-intercept is right away. It does not tell me where it's at. So let's look at this here. So when x is 5, y is 15. Well, let's go here. X, 15 to 30 goes up by 15. 5 to 10 goes up by 5. Okay, well, if it goes up 15, and it appears to go up 15 every time, I can work backwards and subtract 15. If I go back here and I subtract 5 to get there, I will have 0. Subtract 15 gives me 0. So my y-intercept on this is going to be 0. Then to find the slope, it is going to be the change in y over the change in x. So 15 over 5, which simplifies to 3. And so let's go, so y equals mx plus b. Well, if b is 0, so I can't just do plus 0. I don't need to say that. That would cancel out. So y equals mx. Well, if it crosses at 0, I know it's going to be proportional. So y equals 3x. So if y equals 3x, I'm going to go through the origin. and go 1 would be 3, 2 would be 6, 3 would be 9, and then I can work backwards, go 1, 2, 3, 1 over here, 1, 2, 3, 1 over, 1, 2, 3, 1 over. So there is my line connecting those together. So we didn't select a great answer. Since I already know that B is 0, I can already eliminate these two answers, because they put those in to distract you because they wanted you just to pick the first one, even though X was 5. But the answer is D.